assuming everyone can hear okay. I have been slightly taken aback by just how much we have covered already that I had planned to go through. So I'm actually going to try and whiz through beyond the pie charts and bar charts to some of the actual use cases that we've got at Qlik, so that you can see some of the kind of inspiration stuff behind this. So as you know, I've been introduced. I am the Senior Director for HR Systems and People Analytics at Qlik. Like Steve, I have a very long job title. They like to call my team SPA, S-P-A. So the common perception around Qlik is that I spend all day by the pool. It's not true, not in the slightest. My objective today is to showcase to you how we are leveraging people analytics to democratize, that's a word that we heard earlier, and serve information to consumers, speeding up our business and giving a better user experience. This is all stuff that we've already heard about to some degree this morning, even in the time between 8 and 11. And what I'd love to leave you with is to think about who can use your data, how it can be delivered and consumed to support people-centric, data-driven decisions while adding stakeholder value throughout your organization. Again, these are all topics that we've already talked about this morning. I'd like to show you a few of the ways that we are doing this at Qlik. So I think very straightforward agenda. I don't have long, so I'm going to whiz through the first part, who consumes HR data, what does that look like? And I really want to focus on 4 areas that Qlik, me, and my team delivering people analytics are kind of trying to think a bit differently to push people analytics in a different way. People may not think they are consuming people analytics data, but it is being served up to them in a way that they can consume it from our people analytics structure. I will just say that these are all live apps. These are all live, and there's a lot of live data in there, but I have jumbled everything up. So what you're seeing is pretty mixed up. Please do not draw any conclusions from what you're seeing. It's not real life. So who are your consumers? People analytics is central core to every business. Or at least the employee data is. So we have a set of data that pretty much the whole business uses from time to time, be that from the executive team sitting at the top of the tree, through facilities, events, talent development, the list goes on and on and on. Pretty much everybody in my business will come to me knocking on my door saying, can I have please? Could you provide? Could you send me this report? So this is where I start. Who am I trying to democratize my data to in order to help me understand what that data needs to look like as we serve it back? The common denominator here is to try and serve as many people as possible with a single piece of data. If you can do that, it reduces the risk of giving 2 different people 2 different sets of data. So what we do is we have a core, people analytics, it's called PAV4 in Qlik. And what we do when we get use case requests is we take from that and we create something new, but it's the same data. So it doesn't matter whether you're being delivered something very small, in the example of a starter or leaver report or app, or you're looking at it as part of the overall people analytics platform that we've built. The data will always be the same between the two. They use the same set of data, they treat it in the same way. One of the really big things here, and KPIs, benchmarks and measures, we've already been here. This is not what I want to talk about. One of the really big things is being able to layer in the data. We talked about it earlier in the panel. And this view alone within our people analytics tool at Qlik uses all of these data sources to derive the data that's shown in that dashboard. And one of the key things as you are building people analytics solutions is to think about your audience and to think about how quickly they're going to get lost if you present it in any other way than the very simple or the very basic. What I've been trying to do is to present it in a way that people can then go further. They can create a new view, or they can self-consume a different view. But the idea is very straightforward. You have to present it in a way that makes sense to the maximum audience. You should not need to be a specialist to understand what you're looking at this sort of level. Given that there is so much data being fed into this one dashboard, I think we did quite well. The questions always come later when they move to the next sheets. So this is a really great use case for people analytics. It always starts with a question, and it's usually a very simple one. How many, who, or where are our people? Which entity do they work for? How many do we have in this country? Are they contractors or are they employees? What kind of contractors are they? Do they have systems access? You know, in the traditional sense, HR has been very used to, I go to my HCM, I pull out an Excel report, I look at it, and I give an answer. And within 5 minutes, you get the follow-up question. So you go back and you pull out another Excel report, and you look at that and you serve back the answer. And then 10 minutes later, you get another question. And by this time, it's lunch. It is really important that as your business is consuming data, and I refer back to all of those stakeholders that sat around the People Analytics platform, it is really important that we give consistency. Because if those questions are being asked on Monday, and then same questions being asked on a Thursday, chances are it's going to be different. We work with highly dynamic, moving organizations. So what we did here is we pulled out of our People Analytics platform a view that I provided to the executive team. And the view is very straightforward. You've got starters on the left, you've got employed in the middle, and you've got leavers on the right. And underneath there is a graphic to say, that's the Whizzy bar chart piece, just to say how many of each you're looking at. Because People Analytics has a calendar, I can now provide this to basically anybody who wants or needs to know starters and leavers information. And the list is longer than you think. Sales enablement want to know how many QC, quota carriers start, so that they can organize all the sales enablement training. Talent development want to know how many employees we have, because they're looking for data around maybe the talent review process. Facilities need to know who started, who's left, so that we can provide workspaces for them in certain locations. And at an executive level, we just simply want to know how many people do we have, how many people started, and how many people left in a period. So we can do all of that from within the app by simply selecting. So I'm going to go in and just choose here January 2019. So during January 2019, you can see in the app is telling you everything you need to know. We had 92 starters, we had 2,136 employees, and we had 36 who left. Those are their names. You can then drill into that and add more data as you need to get to, are they contractors? What kind of contractors? Where were they? Okay. So I provided that simple screen with pretty much an open distribution list. This is the democratization of the data. So if anybody comes to me now and says, I need to know starter and leaver information, I don't provide them with a custom report from Workday. I just give them access to this app. And that means now that pretty much the whole of my organization is using the same data source through the same app. I govern what's in there so that we know that it's accurate. Here's my organization. It's relatively small, and pretty much most of it is centered around Workday administration. That is our system of record for our employee population. This is provided via a tool. We have a piece of software called Org Chart now. Some of you may have seen it, heard of it. But we use that to visualize org charts. This only goes part way though. I have a blank spot there. What am I doing with it? It's already filled because this is from some time ago. But what happens when we use People Analytics to visualize an org chart? Well, what we've done here is we've actually built an org chart over a point layer map. Sounds very exciting. And it is quite fun. This is Qlik. This is what we look like. Looks like a giant airline map, right? But every one of these lines has an arrow. So you can see which points are reporting to which people. So you can see here this top one has an arrow pointing from the UK into Canada. And what I can now do is begin to visualize and understand the gap analysis. So if I have a vacancy in my team, where is that going to be? It's not quite as important for my organization. It's relatively small. I know what's going to go on. But when you look at somebody like Chris Jones, Chris is our sales leader. When you're looking at an organization the size of his, it becomes increasingly important to be able to place your next hire near to the customers that you want to be targeting or selling to, or key customers. So from this perspective, again, it's probably at too high a level. He'll want to come in and look at more detail around that. But this is beginning to inform as to the network of people that you've got and the geography that it's covering and how you want to cover it. So, for example, I've not got the selections available here, but I could just look at a particular kind of salesperson, whether we're looking at key account managers or whether we're looking at territory sales managers. And you could really hone in and understand what geographies you're covering from that perspective. So I'm just going to take Chris away here. The other thing that we have found this useful for is, for those of you at Qlik, you're going to giggle with this one. James Fisher, always pick on James Fisher. His afternoons must be a nightmare dealing with his direct reports in America because he's based in the UK. So I'm guessing he works fairly much quite a lot of late nights. The other thing that strikes me is, so he's the head of product marketing. He's our senior vice president product marketing. Where's his APAC coverage? We're a global organization. How is he serving product marketing to our APAC customers? So this is a question that when I saw this, that I started asking. And I think, despite all the panel discussion that we've had this morning, one of the key attributes to anybody in a people analytics function is to be able to ask the next question. To understand what you're looking at and to be able to say, does that look right? Where are the gaps? What's going to come next? And for me, APAC, when I saw this, was the absolute missing link. So if somebody resigns from James's team, he now has a decision to make, I guess. Does he put somebody into APAC to cover that region? Or is he's doing it himself? Because in a lot of our business areas, we would cover APAC from maybe Europe, but he doesn't have anyone there either. You've got one person in Stockholm, perhaps, but where's it going to come from? So people analytics and the specifically here, the geoanalytics piece of our software is helping us identify and understand how our employee distribution is being laid out, which in turn asks a number of other questions. By the way, just in case you were interested, I'm not sure you were, but we'll try it anyway. The network's a little slow in here, so here we go. That same org chart that you were looking at for my organization, that's what systems and people analytics, that's where the SPA team resides. There's a hotel swimming pool in every location. Not. Okay. So that's a second use case, employee networks. Being able to see over a geography your employee population and see the relationships between those points on the map. We have also talked a lot today about reporting, and the panel just now we heard that there were a repository of 250 reports that people could go in and self-consume. I see that slightly differently. I don't want to deliver reports, I just want to deliver an app. I can control an app and I can control what's in there. And if everybody uses the same data source, there is likely to be much more consistency. Whereas if you produce a report that ages immediately, something will change within the 24 hours between the day that you send it to your recipient and that recipient reads it, something will have changed. If you can both just log into the same system and consume it that way, that's a much more robust way of consuming your data. So on that note, we've these kind of some top-level thoughts around why I am using people analytics to deliver what I would term as reporting. But it's serving up data to the users. So it produces reliable results. We can use data preparation, so everything that gets loaded gets treated in the same way every time you load that data, which is hourly in the case of people analytics. Speed of delivery, it's actually always there. You don't need to stop and ask somebody for it. No one in the business needs to stop and ask who were our starters and leavers in January of this year. They log into the app, they make a selection, and the data's there. It becomes a trusted source. If you guys over here log in and find one answer, and you guys over here log in and find the same answer, there is a much higher chance that you're going to trust what you're looking at. You can get into the data quickly. You can layer in the additional sources. So we saw before, we've got Globoforce, we've got Workday, we've got REST connectors to external sources as well. A whole bunch of stuff. And you can very quickly layer over any data with some new source so that you can begin to derive more value and more answers to the questions that your business are asking. Self-service, once you've got access, you've got access. You can access it anytime. As I say, we're on an hourly refresh, so it's pretty much live data anytime you need it, whether you're based in Singapore, APAC, whether you're based in California, USA. Same system, same data, anytime you need it, it's right there. You don't need to stop and ask the team who might have gone to bed for a report from Workday. You can just go self-consume. It's an always on bit at the bottom. Another real live case. This was my first project as I took over people analytics or kind of constructed people analytics. We were producing a board of directors report every month, and it was taking us, we worked out, to be about 288 hours a year. That's quite a significant amount of time. That is because there were 7 people involved, and it took them on average 3 hours each to pull the reports out, work in Excel, filter through the data, work out what was wrong, correct it, aggregate it back in, produce the visualizations before sending it up to the board. That now takes me an hour and a half a month. So I pull 3 reports, I put them into our app, and away you go. The visualizations all update. We just take a screenshot, pop it in a PowerPoint, and send it off to finance. It's really as simple as that. So I can show you a quick view here. This is the kind of stuff that we're delivering into our board. So we've got the bar chart on the far left, the one with the orange and the blue. So this is the number of vacancies that we've got and the average time that those vacancies have been open. So we can very quickly identify. There's a lot in sales, but actually this dot here is super high. So what's happening there? Are we got some recs on hold? Are we doing something different? Is the spec changing? Are we trying to find Yeti fur coats? I don't know. But there is something that it's really driving that average duration much, much higher. On the other side, we've got these dots right at the bottom. So these guys are super proactive. I know that because having come from recruitment, I know that those departments are super proactive, and they keep their average duration really, really low. We've got a view of the candidate pipeline. We've got rec aging data. We know where the recs are open by region and by type, whether they're incremental or replacements, and then the kind of hiring statistics to date. The really nice thing about using this for people analytics is that it doesn't stop there. We can now use that same data to really explore what's going on. So maybe this grouping by executive leader is a bit granular. Actually, I just want to see it by a different view. So this is a higher level view: general administration, sales, cost of services, which is our consulting group, R&D, and marketing. And now all your dots have moved around, and you're beginning to see a different trending from the view before. Or, if you really wanted to, and I used to do this a lot in my previous role, is that we can look at actually individual department level recruiting statistics. So how many recs are open and how long is that department taking to fill these recs. If we just choose some of those, of course all the other visualizations change so that we can start exploring. So now I've chosen these specific areas, the pipeline has adjusted so that we can see how many candidates are in here. We can understand the aging at the bottom and where those roles are in their location. And that app takes 3 minutes to update once you put the reports in. And reload the data through. So this is where the time saved really plays a part. Now, who wouldn't want to reduce their time spent in reporting, especially to the board? You know, it's always one of those things that gets in the way. Conscious of time. I'm going to swipe through to, not that one, this one. Emergency response. So this is actually one of my most fun apps, and it always we were talking earlier, and a thought came through my head about the need for information and the desire for information, and the way that I wasn't on the panel, so I couldn't answer the question to that one. But if you get asked and the question leads with "it would be interesting to," leave it on the desk. Because it would be interesting is one of those leading questions that says, yeah, I kind of think I know what I want, and I just want to check it out first. So that is the sure way path to spending a lot of time trying to understand what the consumer, what your stakeholder is looking for in the first place. But if they come to you and say, I need to have, that is a different request. And you can be pretty certain that that's going to be a much more robust query. The emergency response app was born out of a desire from the North American business partner team to be able to contact our employees. At the time, we were going through a lot of severe weather stuff, tornadoes, hurricanes, freezing winds, whatever else, and we just needed to be able to check that our employees were okay without having to go into Workday and look up every single record. So what they basically wanted was an employee directory so that they could reach out to and be in touch with our employees. This was the solution that we came up with, but it's had a couple of interesting side effects or on downstream advantages as well. So what you see here is a map of the world. This is now mapping through geoanalytics our employee population at zip code, postcode level. And what we're able to do now is to understand who's an employee, who's a contractor. But one of the side effects of this was being able to look at the data quality. So one of the most frustrating things that we were finding is we run a report out of Workday and say, here is a report of all your employees that you want to contact, but there's a bunch of missing data. And they would come back and say, but this data's in Workday. And this is because in Workday there are like about 12 different fields that you might populate a telephone number in. And that report that I was providing just didn't capture all of them. So what we've done here is we've pulled out and aggregated all of that data. And now I know exactly how many pieces of data are missing. What does that do? It means that if I go through and look up in Belgium, say I need to contact everybody who is in Belgium, I can now with some certainty say, these are the items of information that I believe are missing from Workday. This is where we need to clean up our data. Now I'm not spending my time trawling through Workday trying to find something that actually I know isn't there. So it's an interesting side effect from just needing to understand where people are to being able to actually increase and measure the increase in our data quality. So coming back to the emergency response, and this is where the multiple data connectors or the multiple data sources come in. This is what we wanted to get to. Here is a map of the world, and at the time that I refreshed the data in this app, I know that there were some severe weather events occurring in America. And what the app does is it now plots where the information is coming from. So this is coming from the North American Severe Weather Warning Service. Nice catchy short name. And plotting it directly into our app here. And it's now telling us who is affected. One employee potentially affected by this one. If I, though, go to, if I just choose all of them, that will probably be the best thing. It's now going to show us all the different weather warnings when the internet speed catches up, and tell us who or which employees are affected. Here we go. And it will serve up for us as well their contact details. So their phone number, their manager's phone number, their spouse's phone number, or the emergency contact phone number, their address. I can't show it because it's a live app. When there's a tornado warning or a hurricane warning, it actually plots the path over the map. So now we can go to our employees and say, actually, we see that this is coming your way. Please, could you check in with us every 3-4 hours, make sure you're okay. So another great use case that's not bar charts and pie charts. The final thing I'm going to talk about really quickly, because I'm conscious of time, is predictive analytics. We talked again about it in the panel. This is one of the predictive analytics projects that we have been working on. And it is very much driven from the fact that every time we get a new starter, IT complain, the manager doesn't submit the ticket in time for us to order the equipment, and then we need to ship it out, and the worker starts, and they're arrived, and they've got nothing, they can't log in. Strikes me that we've been recruiting that role for 6 weeks. How is it that we don't know that that person is arriving? So what we've done is we've built a black magic box that processes a bunch of data that comes out of Workday from the position that we open: job category, job banding, job department, and job location. Each of those gives us a set amount of parameters. Now, with about an 80% accuracy, I can now predict what distribution lists and security groups that person's going to need when they arrive, what hardware and accessories they're going to need day one, what software licenses, what system access and configuration they're going to need when they arrive. And that even goes into the country location. So if we're recruiting in Sweden, that person's going to want to have a Swedish keyboard, as opposed to somebody in the US who's going to want to have a US keyboard. So even to that level, we can be predictive with, these are the people that we're recruiting today, and this is the equipment that they're going to need. So that the only thing that needs to happen when we hire that candidate is we plug in the name, and we create the user account, we install it on the equipment, and you are ready with your box. The minute that that manager turns up and says, right, I've got a new hire starting. Here's all the equipment, it's all done. We can even email the manager and say, we know you're hiring. Here is everything that we're going to prepare. Please let us know if you think any differently. So that is the predictive analytics piece that we've been working on. And that in itself, we reckon, is going to save weeks and weeks of IT time every year. Thank you very much. Any questions? If we've time.